Hi, I'm Trevor.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and today Trevor will be catching up on cinema. The movie that we are going to be talking about is 2013, The Counselor, directed by Ridley Scott.
Correct.
I just want to start off by saying that, according to IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, is that Metacritic? I believe that's what it is.
We're hitting all of them?
We're hitting all of them.
Okay, fine.
It's combined. I did the average. It's 45%. 45%.
You can't bring numbers into criticism.
Well,
don't tell me about no numbers.
Well, I'm just saying, that's a pretty harsh score.
My criticisms come with thumbs, not numbers, sir.
I think Alien Covenant did better than this movie.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I knew going into this one, actually, is that this movie is generally not very well liked.
No, not at all. So one of the reasons why I chose this real quick is because of that. One, it was not received well critically. A buddy of mine and I, we watched this around the time that it came out, caught it on HBO, and it just blew us away. Like, we were shocked by it. Honestly, we probably liked the juicy bits the most, like the little bit of action, the car scene, which I don't really want to discuss too much.
There are some quite literally juicy bits in this movie.
Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. No, we didn't even plan that. He just did that. But yeah, so I've seen this movie, like I told you before. I've seen this probably about the 5th time I've seen this since 2013.
Wow.
And I made myself rewatch it last night just to be, so it was fresh in my mind, and I actually caught quite a few things that I didn't catch before.
That's usually the sign of a good movie.
Yes, very much. So just a quick rundown of the movie. We don't need to go through. We'll end up going through quite a bit of it, I'm assuming, and we'll try to keep this less than 90 minutes, but it's going to be difficult, this one.
We'll see.
There's a lot going on.
This production has layers to it.
Layers.
Yeah.
So the counselor, played by Michael Fassbender, and that's his name throughout the movie. We never actually found his name. I believe it's just counselor.
There may have been like a last name dropped, but I don't remember it. I always thought of him as the counselor.
Just the counselor.
The titular counselor.
He is, and he is dating Penelope Cruz in the movie, and we kind of start off with them
having the pillow talk. Yeah, the most epic of pillow talks. Jeez.
So of course, so by the name, of course, you can tell he's a lawyer, and we come to find out that he's kind of a greedy lawyer. Like, he's kind of focused on money. He's got I'd say she's he's trying to get that trophy wife, and he basically gets caught up in something that he shouldn't have been in, which, spoiler, is drug smuggling.
Yes. I mean, it's revealed within the first few minutes of the movie that there is a drug deal happening,
yes.
And if you're paying attention, which I hope you are, you figure out that he's connected to it.
This is actually one of my favorite movies just in general, but I think this is one of my favorite cartel movies. I've seen a few. Sicario is really good.
Absolutely. Excellent.
I love Sicario. I think it's even a little bit darker than this, just because of the ending.
I think Sicario is, I mean, they're both pitch black movies, but yes. Sicario has an overbearing weight to it. Even the soundtrack, one of the best reviews I read for that movie actually commented on the soundtrack and said, I've never watched a movie where the soundtrack growls at you. It sounds like a horrible monster snarling at you, and it's a beautiful soundtrack, but it's also terrifying and pulse pounding.
Pretty much gonna have to watch it again.
But yeah, they're both very dark films, is what you should take away from that.
No Country for Old Men, which we will get into.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a parallel between these two.
Correct. And then one of the worst cartel movies I think I've ever seen is Savages.
I haven't seen it, but again, just like The Counselor, I know it by reputation.
That might be one that we have to do for catching up on cinema, just because of this. If you like Sicario, you like The Counselor, you like No Country for Old Men, you should have to watch Savages.
So this is the one, Savages is the one that pops up on your Netflix queue and tricks you into watching it. It's Sicario was great, and then it says, you might also like The Counselor.
Do you like Benicio del Toro? You'd probably like this other cartel. No.
Yeah, Oh, no.
One is a good performance, the other one is a cartoon character, basically. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, now that we give him just the general gist, things go bad for him, yes. And everybody else involved for the most part. Is there anything you want to jump in right now while we're
So you want to stick to the summary right now, or you want to get into the fine details? Because already I see some branching points that
there's plenty. That's what I'm saying. There's plenty of places to branch off from here. We could kind of work through the plot a little bit. Definitely spoilers in this. If you haven't seen it, don't listen to this, and you should absolutely just go watch it. But yeah, maybe we should. Do you want to go through characters a little bit?
Yeah, let's back it on up.
Dive into the characters.
Let's roll it back a bit. So let's go back to him and Penelope Cruz.
Yes.
Because, just disclaimer ahead of time, I watched the extended cut of this movie, which you
possibly have.
You may have seen in your 5 viewings of this movie.
I'm telling you.
I rented this on Amazon, and I saw there was an extended version and a normal version. Being as this is a Ridley Scott film, I figured, why not? Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Like, all of his movies have an alternate version. Typically, the alternate version's better, so I went with that, hoping it would work out.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you which one's better because I've only seen this movie once. Anyway, first, 3 minutes or so of this movie is basically just Michael Fassbender and Penelope Cruz cuddling together under the sheets. Really intimately photographed. When I was writing down my notes, I was actually thinking to myself, logistically, I wonder what this was actually like to film. Mm-hmm. Because the camera's rammed up right in both of their faces and covered by a sheet. Mm-hmm. But when you think of how a film production is made, it's never that intimate. like there were probably a bunch of teamsters and like camera operators all huddled around them in an igloo or something with a prop sheet that was probably the size of a fucking building or something. But anyway, it's actually a really neat scene. I liked it a lot. It's intriguing. It kind of sets the tone for the boundaries. This movie pushes a lot of boundaries, at least in terms
Very
of
much.
Mainstream cinema. There's a lot of taboos that get pushed beyond, especially regarding sex.
Yes.
and violence to a degree, but mostly sex, because the characters are very cavalier in the way they talk about things like this.
It comes up a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, Javier Bardem's character is supposed to be this dynamic, devil-may-care kind of character, and the way he speaks about these things, I feel that initial conversation, which is supposed to be between a chaste woman and Michael Fassbender, because it isn't revealed until maybe an hour into the movie that she's a God-fearing woman that is supposed to be kind of saintly, I guess. She's supposed to be quote-unquote good woman.
Which makes her interaction with Cameron Diaz all the more interesting.
We'll get to that, but
oh yes, and as you were saying, double make here. Yes, Javier Bardem's character tucks in half a shirt, and that is fashion for him. Half of his shirt's
I
tucked
noticed
in.
that. Yeah, he's got his Charlie Sheen shirt with half tucked in, and then he's got the Backstreet Boy hair.
It makes me so mad because he's such a suave guy. He's so suave, and you make him look like an asshole.
He's got the bad Insta-tan and the sunglasses, and it's funny because with the shape of his face and with that ridiculous clown outfit he's wearing throughout the whole movie, I couldn't help but see David Schwimmer, like David Schwimmer trying too hard in Miami or something.
Seriously, I like his character, but he has just little moments of where he kind of annoys me. But anyway.
Yeah, but bringing it back to those two characters, they're having very intimate pillow talk, and she's very lustful and is urging him to do things to her to pleasure her. But like I said, an hour from now, we learn that it's oh, that's very out of character for her. Yeah. So it's interesting seeing her so vulnerable the very first time we see her.
Well, also in this very first scene, he mentioned one of them mentions that it's 2 p.m. and he has a flight to catch, and I don't know if you know this or not, Trevor. There is alcohol. You can see that there was wine or champagne or some kind of wine next to the bed, wine glasses. Which means, one, they were drinking, and two, the thing about flights as a drinker, because Trevor is not really a drinker, what you do the night before a flight is you get shithouse drunk, because all you have to do is walk into the airport, check in, and then fall asleep on an airplane.
Gotcha.
That's generally what happens.
Okay. Wow. They planned ahead.
Anytime you walk through an airport, I'd say 70% of the adults walking through there hungover.
No wonder everybody's like massaging their forehead and stuff.
It's not the stress. It's the hangover.
A lot of sunglasses and a lot of forehead massages at airports.
Because it sucks to try to sleep on a plane, and the best way to do it is just have a lack of sleep and then just crash out.
Gotcha.
Actually, we were introduced very first to... I think the first time I watched this, it was kind of confused. The first time you watch this movie, as you mentioned, there are layers to this, and you really have to... It takes a while for the payoff, like, of setting up everything.
Yeah, there's a theme in the editing of this movie, where it's... This movie is an analyst's nightmare. Mm-hmm. So for someone like me, who has an analytical mindset, and who watched this movie as homework, essentially...
Yes.
It's a bit of a nightmare. Because
you don't know what to pay attention to. Really.
Exactly. You find yourself hunting for meaning and for symbolism and for planting for payoffs down the road. But the time between those payoffs is like 3/4 of the movie. So you end up getting all these random factoids and like musings thrown out there by characters throughout the movie that feel inconsequential and random. Mm-hmm. Like to put it blunt, like it feels kind of random at times. But then the movie starts to like put itself together, like in its later stages. But in the early goings, it's just like, what the fuck is happening, and why do I care?
See, I thought that the opening scene, because I've seen this a few times, was them in bed. No, it's actually the guy on the motorcycle. The very first shot is him just hauling ass through the desert.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even record. He goes from Juarez to El Paso.
See, maybe I blacked that out of my mind. I just remember an establishing shot of Juarez,
mm-hmm.
and then they were in bed. Oh!
Yeah, he zooms right through there because we do a shot from really far away, and then we're in their bed. We're in their bedroom.
Yeah. And that establishes the road for... Cormac McCarthy, the road. That establishes the road for later in the movie. Which, I mean, we'll get to the writing at some point, but... Yeah, planting and payoff in this movie feels like the person who's stitching it together in the editing room is drunk for the first half, mm-hmm. and then it starts to find its way, and you're like, oh, they didn't just throw that in there for no reason.
That was very much for a reason.
Yeah, there is intent backing this.
So let's jump to where he's flying to. He's saying it's a business trip, but he's flying to Amsterdam because he is going to basically propose to her, and he is going to buy the ring.
Yes.
Or, well, at least buy the diamond to put in the ring.
Yeah.
So first of all, you can see from the establishing shot of his apartment, or if that was their bedroom. I don't think that was a hotel or anything like that. That was just their bedroom, I believe. I'm assuming.
I mean, the establishing shot said Juarez, so maybe I blacked out a few scenes, but like if I was like, hang on,
hotels that overlook Juarez.
I was like, really? That's a nice hotel.
I think that's his apartment or house, and it's really nice. Yeah. And then he's taking a plane to Amsterdam, and he's going to a private jeweler. This isn't even a store. This is just a dude with diamonds in a room.
This is an old man with an armoire and a lot of diamonds for some reason.
I'm assuming he just drinks tea all day, and then at 4 o'clock he just starts drinking wine, and that's just like his whole day is just those two things. And then he falls asleep.
Sounds about right. I mean, well, he did have like a receptionist or like a door lady.
I mean, that's pretty cool. He was in his PJs, I'm pretty sure, for this.
She's probably like on call all day, just in case.
So... I guess this. I mean, nothing's in a movie on accident. This is in the movie on purpose.
Well, especially a high-profile Ridley Scott movie with Cormac McCarthy attached as the writer and a cast of stars.
Correct. What did you make of the whole diamond scene? Because I initially saw it as Fassbender just wants to get a really nice diamond because he's trying to lock her down quick. Uh-huh. But as we learn later in the movie, he's actually very greedy, and he's...
Well, the guy drives a Bentley and, like you said, has a gorgeous apartment and seems to fly around the country at will.
He's wearing every article of clothing. I think his pajamas are nicer than most of my clothes.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell that he's very, very wealthy.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that has money problems, but you wouldn't know it.
Exactly.
The jeweler scene was Bruno Ganz, by the way, playing the jewelry. He is unknown to me for the most part. He's mostly known by folks over here for that Downfall movie that became memed. Or it's basically Hitler throwing a tantrum and people add fake subtitles over it because it's him throwing the hissiest of hissy fits.
Never seen it.
Anyway, he's very highly regarded as a brilliant actor in Europe, but over here, most people probably wouldn't recognize him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's only in it for the one scene, but he contributes quite a bit. In some ways, it felt kind of like amateurish because it's like it's almost too blunt. It's like winking at you the whole time because he goes off on a story about anti-Semitic cultures and how kicking the Jews out of your country leads to your downfall, and how the nature of heroism has been tainted by the Greeks and Western religion. And every turn of phrase he has some sort of additional meaning to it, where it feels like you should be busting out your Cliff's Notes, or like, again, if you have an analytical mindset, this is the kind of shit that drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. Because you can tell everything he's saying has weight to it, and it doesn't feel like a naturalistic conversation, but the language is very beautiful and engaging. I think from a sales standpoint, I think this is almost like whispering poetry into your lover. Like, well, I mean, that's any major purchase. It helps if you can contribute a story to that purchase. Fassbender's character knows kind of what he's doing. Like he understands like the movements. He's like picking up the diamond. He's asking the right questions. But even when the guy is describing things, he's like, you see these little specks here and there. He's like, is that good? He's like, it's very good. So he kind of knows what he's doing, but at the same time he doesn't. And go ahead. It very much feels like a mentor relationship, even though we don't have much context for how well these two actually know each other. Because I don't think they know each other at all. Oftentimes he's talking to him in almost like a fatherly tone, where he's not so much telling him things, he's asking him to come to his own conclusions, and then says, okay. I think so. It's like he's trying to educate him while he's trying to teach, while he's trying to give him the facts at the same time. Now, this is one of doesn't he advise against him buying the diamond? Well, he says that the classification of the diamond is a cautionary diamond. Yes, there we go. Yes, cautionary. Yeah, and this is a theme that doesn't emerge until a few scenes later, or probably an hour later, if I'm being honest. But it's I don't know. I felt weird about that scene because it was very engaging, very well written. But this is a critique just across the board for me. A lot of the language is a little too flowery for my taste, anyway. Okay. And a lot of that has to do with the cinematography, because it's a very grungy, very naturalistic looking film at times. It is very much. But the vocabulary of the characters and their command of the English language is remarkable. Deliberate. Yeah, it's very deliberate, like you said. It does not feel natural, but if you look at it almost like as a play, then it works a little better. But, I see that. But with that packaging, with that aesthetic presentation, it just doesn't quite fit for me. And to get so much of that thrown at you so early, because this is like one of the first major dialogue scenes we get, it's like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting this. But I mean, the character explains himself away, though, and you'll find me backpedaling a lot in all of my critiques of this movie because it is a well-made film. I can't knock it for that. Like, for instance, his character, it's revealed that he's apparently has heritage in Spain, and his family was probably kicked out of Spain. Yeah. So he's an exiled Jew, basically. And, if you know anything about Jewish culture, oral tradition is a really big part of it. And so for him to go off on some tangent about stories and heroism in the West is not too far-fetched, coming from him. Gotcha. One thing, I think we have to backpedal a little bit, because before Fassbender actually goes to Amsterdam, we are introduced to Cameron Diaz. This is right around the time, so... that scene was weird. I think, pretty much any time we're being introduced to a new character, it's a little bit of a weird scene, I think. That was particularly weird, though. It's very weird. So she kind of has a fascination with cheetahs. Apparently. She's got the tats, yeah. And even the eye makeup that she has on is very Good much point, yeah. Cheetah. But I think that's kind of setting up a little bit of a motif, kind of an obvious one, I would say. I noticed that She's a man-eater.
No joke.
Oh, here she comes.
The cheetah actually pops up in a few places, several places.
Yes.
And I kind of caught it halfway through, so if I go back again here in like a year and watch it, I'll because you can't. This is kind of like an Aronofsky film. It's you're gonna have to space it out if you decide to watch it more than once.
Yeah, this whole time I was like grumbling to myself while watching this movie, like, motherfucker made me get out my notebook. Hadn't done that since college. Shit.
But you were talking about. I don't want to dive too much into her character just yet because I have a couple of theories about her.
There's a lot to explore with her.
I really like her. I really like her in this movie.
I don't.
I do, and she's very funny. She's a comedian in my opinion. She's a funny actress. I haven't seen her play too many serious roles. Maybe that's why. But I think she does a pretty good job of being bad in this. But Javier Bardem, Reiner.
Yes.
Now that you mentioned it, he seems really insecure, especially with her. He seems very insecure, and then talking about her, that's generally where his insecurities come from.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who his thoughts come together on the fly. Mm-hmm. You'll find him like being very open and very sincere and sharing details he probably shouldn't.
Yes.
And then he'll do I said too much.
I said too much.
And then he'll get like depressed or maybe scare himself a little bit. So it's like his mouth moves faster than his brain. So there's a lot of false bravado with him.
His voice is like a chocolate fountain. And
it really is.
Gosh.
Yeah, you just want to live in that. Like,
don't put it in your pocket. That's your lucky quarter. Oh man.
But yeah, we're introduced to the two of them in a very strange scene. It's like just out in the plains in Mexico.
They have you can also tell that they're rich. Yes, New Mexico. They're in Texas for the Tejas. For the majority of this, you can tell that both sets of couples are wealthy.
Oh yeah, he's like the kind of new wealthy, where he's like the foppish idiot.
Yes,
and then she's like the pissy wealthy, where it's just like nothing thrills me anymore.
See, I think that she is white trash.
Oh, absolutely. No, they hint at that.
I'm going to bring up Kill Bill, and I think you might be able to figure out my theory behind her. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you can tell they're both wealthy. He's making Manhattans, by the way.
Oh, fun fact.
I could just tell by what he was like. Oh yeah, those Manhattans.
In the trunk of his Ferrari or whatever.
Yeah, they have a butler there too.
Or the boot of his Ferrari.
Basically, they're doing the cheetah's basically hunting rabbits.
Yeah, it's chasing. They're basically they have two pet cheetahs, and she's got like a lawn chair, something like that, and she's watching her cheetah hunt a jackrabbit.
It's some weird shit, I guess.
And she looks bored out of her mind.
Well, I was gonna say TV must be too boring. I mean,
there's again a theme about like opulence and what that leads people to.
So, well, let's dive into the plot a little bit more.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
As we mentioned, Fassbender, greedy Fassbender. He is very. He has the presentation of somebody who's very wealthy, as we said, and
very well put together too.
Very well put together.
He's not shaken easily.
It's Fassbender, yeah. He's
good.
He's a handsome dude.
He's good the opposite too, though.
Yes, he is.
That does come into play.
This is where Reiner and Michael Fassbender, we get to Reiner's place, which is a fucking mansion out in Texas somewhere.
Looks like
El Paso.
Old MTV music video at a pool party or something.
I would like it if it was anywhere else in the country. I would not want to live in Texas. It just looks too hot around there, and I'd hate the desert. So
his compound looked dreary as fuck.
Very dreary.
It's just like a parking lot with wilderness around it, with desert wilderness around it.
But basically, we're introduced. Or this is where the two of them are talking, and we're not really sure as to what's going on. We just know that Reiner, Javier Bardem, is advising the counselor that he should not be doing whatever they're going to get into.
Yes, he's counseling the counselor.
And Fassbender is very confident because he has several people tell him, you shouldn't be doing this. Don't do this. You should not do this.
Yes, this is the second warning he's gotten. So we got the cautionary diamond, and now Javier Bardem their language in this scene is clever writing, by the way.
Yes.
They do mention that Fassbender's a little concerned that the compound may have microphones in it.
Yes.
So Javier Bardem advises him that it's like, oh, it's fine. I know how to do this. I know how to have these conversations. I think I don't use arraignable language is the phrase he uses.
Yeah.
And so all the information that changes hands during this conversation has a bit of like a code speak element to it. So they allude to things without explicitly mentioning them. So no mention of drugs, no mention of deals.
Nothing.
It's just some vague thing that he's cautioning him against.
Yes.
And this is where the bolito comes up in conversation.
Oh, yes, the bolo tie, or is what he kind of
El
equates
bolito.
El bolito. Which we can actually push off unless you want to go ahead and describe it now. Because
we can come back to it, but the thing that you take away from it, I did anyway, is that it's a caution against two different things. It's a caution against the situation he's currently in, as well as I almost got like a little bit of a dual warning in the form of the upcoming marriage, like engagement. No, honestly, maybe that was me adding too much to it, but that's what I got.
If you got that might be Reiner,
I think,
advising him, like, I know why you're doing this, and maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Well, put it this way. Literally every conversation he has with Reiner traces back to women in some shape.
It does. More or less, yes.
Oftentimes regarding his insecurity regarding women, his fear of them, and the things that they can do. Yes.
He's like, oh yes, I like smart women, but it's an expensive hobby, you know.
Yeah. And I think at one point he mentioned something along the lines of like, I can't trust a woman until I know what she wants, or
you can't trust anyone until you know what they want. Yeah,
and that carries over into a lot of character relationships throughout the movie, but. Yeah, I took the bolito message as both don't get married, don't put a ring on it, and don't do the deal.
Do not do the deal. And let's go ahead and jump into why he shouldn't be doing the deal. Because it's with a fucking cartel.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that up front.
Now, again, so let's jump into the author. The author who actually wrote I believe this is based off of a book, or that he just wrote the screenplay.
You know, I don't know if it's actually based on a book, but Cormac McCarthy certainly wrote the screenplay.
Who wrote wrote the novel No Country for Old Men?
Yes, which also deals a little bit with some cartel stuff. Very much,
and what I think is the top 3 greatest movie villains of all time: Anton Chigurh, played by I was going to say Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh no!
I literally looked at a picture of him because I was looking for a gif of him in Gladiator. That's besides the point. It was Javier Bardem.
Well, he stole his haircut for that new Joker pick.
Oh
so,
my goodness!
You know.
Did he really?
After, I'll have you look it up after.
Okay.
This is like breaking news as of like yesterday.
Okay, so when I first watched this movie, I thought that what Fassbender was doing was representing Rosie Perez, who is, from what I understand, the head of the cartel, more or less.
A player of some sort.
She's up there pretty high.
Yeah.
She may not be head, she might be Secretary of State, I don't know. But she's up there. And that's what I thought was discussing, but as we kind of find out later, and I think we could probably, it's not going to hurt anything now, Fassbender is throwing in money so that he can help smuggle drugs across the border. Which is why I was like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Why would... It's clear why. He's in a hole somehow. Like, he owes money.
Yeah, I mean, if you're driving around a Bentley and have a nice apartment and are... going to those kinds of parties, your cash flow going out the door is probably quite... Oh, yeah, and he's trying to start a restaurant with Reiner, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
You need capital to do that, generally.
He just spent at least 3 months' wages on a diamond, probably way more. That thing had to be
They're very...
High five?
They're very good about not actually mentioning the figure. Point is... it's insane.
It's up there.
Yeah.
And he's a lawyer. Certain lawyers, I believe, do get paid really well, but the lavish lifestyle that he's living, it seems like he's living above his means.
Well, I feel like I wrote this in my notes, actually. I make it a habit to write the equivalent of a tweet. I don't actually tweet it. No, that's just not good. But my note regarding this movie, my mini review for it, was that it's like a crime thriller, an oddly paced crime thriller told from the perspective of the white collar element of a drug deal gone bad.
Okay, yeah, that's actually
because so many of the characters are these like erudite, like high class types,
very much,
and the grungier elements of this deal don't come to the fore until much later in the movie, and it gets ugly real fast, and it gets real ugly.
I think it's the quickest a movie's ever just switch gears completely.
But up until more than halfway through the movie, these characters have a calmness to them that you can't help but feel it comes from hubris.
Well, I'm glad you actually brought that up, because that was going to bring up my point about both Javier Bardem and Fassbender's characters, is that, especially with Fassbender, there isn't a shot in this movie where, except aside from meeting Rosie Perez, where he isn't drinking. Honestly, he's drunk before he leaves. He's drinking when he gets to Reiner, Javier Bardem's house. And
he's drinking with Brad Pitt.
He drinks with Javier Bardem again. He has pink lemonade, but I think there's some vodka in that lemonade when he's talking to him.
No, you're right. Like, he is drinking throughout the whole movie.
When they're at the horse races, and you see the guy from Rock and Rolla. I don't know his name.
Toby Kebbell.
Is that his name?
Know how I know his name?
Because
what?
I was gonna say King Kong.
No. What I was gonna say. I mean, he was in there, and he died a horrible death. But
awful.
Up until like recently, I've always thought of him as like, oh God, he's here. This movie's gonna suck. I mean, that's not true. This man has worked with Spielberg. He was in Kong Skull Island. That's a fine movie. Apparently, he was in War Horse and Planet of the Apes. He played Koba.
Oh, he did?
He did the mocap? He did the mocap for Koba, and Koba was one of the best apes in those movies.
He should keep with it, because Andy Serkis has got that. He's got that.
He's got it on lock, man.
He's got it on lock. You got to challenge that man. See if you can do better.
But yeah, up until very recently, until like I took a good long look at his filmography, like he was always that guy that he'd show up and I'd be like, oh no, because he'd like show up in like weird period movies like Wrath of the Titans and like Ben-Hur and stuff like that.
I've seen maybe 5 minutes of each of those movies.
Oh,
I didn't watch them for obvious
You're not
reasons.
missing much, but yeah. Do you think the drinking is like to calm nerves or something, or at least to put him at ease? Because I mean, there are scenes where he's nervous in the early goings, like with Brad Pitt in particular.
I think that specifically Fassbender. I mean, this is casual drinking, a Heineken product placement.
I think Apple computers, shit.
I think that he is genuinely stressed out all the time, and that, I mean, I've heard that being a lawyer can be very stressful, but he is, as they discussed, when shit hits the fan, he's like, you're in a hole, that's why you wanted to do something this crazy. I think that's why he's nervous about the whole deal, and he's nervous because he needs money for whatever reason, whether it's to keep up his lifestyle or whatever happened, that he's in serious hole financially. I mean,
this was a theme big time in No Country for Old Men. There's a inevitability. There's like an inertial quality to the storytelling, where it feels like the conclusion is foregone like ages before we get there. And with his character, it kind of feels that way, where it's like he's already in with these seedy types. It's almost like a schoolyard dare at this point, where it's like he's not gonna tell Brad Pitt he's not gonna do it. He's already made
the bad friends. He's already done that.
He's already living in this. So like committing to actually doing the deed is probably just it was gonna happen no matter what.
And Javier Bardem even says to him, he's like, if you think you're the smartest man in the room, you're the first one that's going to get caught, basically.
Exactly.
And I think that Fassbender has that, like you said, hubris. He's a lawyer. He probably is like, all right, I know what I'm doing is illegal, but shit hits the fan, I know how to get out of it.
And they do a good job of illustrating that, because the actual physical threat of the cartel is like just a thunderstrike. Like, you never see it coming. There's no like looming presence in the shadows.
Maybe he was so focused on the legal side of things that he didn't take in consideration what he was actually getting into. As far like he was worried about federal prosecution. He didn't realize like
Could be.
These people, they don't give a fuck about federal prosecution.
Everybody he seeks counsel from regarding this, they do advise him that these people will fuck your existence.
Because if he was to talk to anybody in his field, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
He has to live in this world in order to even know of it.
Everybody in this world, especially Brad Pitt's like, I don't think he knows.
Well, that's the thing. Also, everyone in this world knows each other.
Let's go to Brad Pitt. You want to talk about him for a second?
I thought he was one of the better characters in the movie.
I love him. Him smiling. There's just something about his cavalier,
Well, I like that. I like that he had a older brother quality to him.
Very much.
The scene we're introduced to him in, he and Michael Fassbender are sitting in a bar together. And it's a very rapid fire, very good dialogue scene. Again, it has that slightly wittier than real life feel to it, which is a little off putting at times. But in his case, it feels a little bit more evened out. But what I liked about his body language in particular is that he has that kind of knowing look all the time, where he's basically daring Michael Fassbender to blink. He's spelling it out to him very plainly. This is what you're getting into. This is how it could go bad. Mm-hmm. This is why I wouldn't do what you're doing. This is why I live the way I live, because I know better than you. But I'm going to entertain you. I'm going to entertain your responses. And pretty much every time Fassbender gives him a response, saying, "Yeah, I'm good to go."
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
And Brad Pitt just kind of okay.
Okay.
And you can see him almost holding back a smile or a laugh, just okay.
You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
He's you don't know what you're talking about, but okay, buddy. Okay, cowboy.
So you wanted to discuss the bolo tie, and I thought I wanted to introduce Brad Pitt before we do this.
Yeah,
because so it's actually Javier Bardem that describes the bolo tie
early in the movie. Very early in the movie.
And I think that's one, that scene, and then Brad Pitt's, when he talks about the snuff film. Mm-hmm. I think this is something that I really like in horror movies as well, is we get a very graphic or very, very good description of something very, very bad happening. But we don't actually see it. Muldoon's death in Jurassic Park, which is awesome, because all you hear, you kind of see what's happening, and you hear a dude screaming.
This is what they call in screenwriting planting and payoff.
Okay,
it's Jurassic Park. You don't see the attack coming from the front, but the other two raptors, you didn't even know were there.
I've seen that movie more than any other movie, probably. But I think that's one of the things I really liked about this movie, was that we don't see decapitation of Penelope Cruz, spoiler alert. But that's what he's telling him, is that's basically what's going to happen.
This is what I was alluding to when I was first rambling about the movie, is in terms of structure. Mm-hmm. It feels very meandering for the first half, because you get a lot of planting and zero payoff for more than half of the movie. Mm-hmm. So you get all these random musings and really intricately detailed stories told to us about interesting things that feel kind of like factoids you would throw out there at a cocktail party to try to impress somebody that owns a boat or something.
I'm thinking Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They feel like random shit that you would keep tucked away in your back pocket just in case you get into a conversation with people who are way smarter than you, and you feel like you need to contribute.
Yeah.
So we get Javier Bardem telling us about some device called El Bolito. That is just a fairly innocuous story that he tells Michael Fassbender. At the time, it serves as a caution to his current situation. Later on, we get Brad Pitt's story.
Shit has hit the fan.
Yeah. But there are multiple instances of this where anecdotes are handed off to the audience through just verbalization, dialogue. Yeah. Just dialogue exchanges. And then we get a visualization of that. So the Bolito does in fact make an appearance in the movie at the very fucking end.
You're not, when you're least expecting it.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
and the snuff film, again, enters into the picture at the very fucking end. But it's mentioned in the first half hour.
Yeah, it is in the first, within the first 20 minutes even, I'd say.
Yeah.
I want to switch... we have to kind of continue with the plot,
we've gotten nowhere.
What's actually happening with the plot, because I want to talk about one of my favorite characters in the movie, which is... he doesn't even have a name. He's I wanted to call him guy that would make Michael Shannon tremble a little bit. The redheaded guy, he is fucking creepy.
Yeah,
like,
he's got that ruddy complexion. He's got that Robert Davi face where it's like
there's nothing.
Looks
there.
like someone was putting out cigarettes on his cheeks or something when he was a kid. Probably were.
His character, I could totally believe that. Yeah. So,
I think he's listed as the Wireman or something.
That works for me
in the script.
The Wireman.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. So what's actually happening is Michael Fassbender he's friends with Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem is friends with Brad Pitt, who actually works with the cartel.
Yes, as like a liaison.
Liaison of some kind, and they get hooked up. That's why he's having the meeting with Brad Pitt. But the puppet master of this whole thing, or the opportunist, I would say, is Cameron Diaz, who is ultimately the villain of the movie, I would say.
Was it Malkina, I think is her name?
Malkina.
Yeah.
Malkina. So she is... Now this is where it's kind of off. This is where I kind of had a couple problems. Like, basically, there is a shipment coming in. That's the one that Fassbender has pitched in to, I guess, help get across, or is buying a portion of for whatever reason. The cartel leader is Rosie Perez, who Fassbender is going to be representing. He says later, court appointed. The judge appointed him to.
There is repetition of that.
I don't think that's. I don't think that was on an accident. I don't think that was coincidence.
I don't think any legal team would do that.
He says
for a high profile person like that, no way.
That's not an accident.
Yeah.
But yes. Basically, the shipment is going from El Paso to Chicago.
Yeah, and throughout the movie, we get episodes of this truck's long journey.
Yes, this truck's long journey. Basically, Cameron Diaz, she has her people murder Rosie Perez's son to get a piece of the truck that they need. Like it's the tracking, and basically gets the truck moving again.
Yeah.
Little do they know that there's a tracking device in it. That's why it's there. And she's hijacking it. Screwing everything up, but she knows it's going to get screwed up. That way, everybody involved, she's not involved, everybody involved, Javier Bardem, Fassbender, and Brad Pitt, they all die.
Yeah.
She knows what's going to happen when this happens.
Yeah.
And she's basically going to take advantage of the situation, more or less. But yes, why do we keep talking? Why does movie decapitations keep coming up? Like, because that's
well, you picked the fucking movie.
That might have been why. I was like, oh, you know, it's really good. This is an elaborate decapitation scene.
Yes, has a procedural feel to
it, which I find a little odd. So the Wireman, again, he's fucking terrifying. I don't know what his name is. I've seen him in something else. I just can't think of what.
Yeah, same here.
Still, I think even in that movie, he still didn't quite have a personality. Like, he was still pretty blank. Like, still
by design.
Yeah.
He's just a goon.
How did they? So they set up this wire along the road, and it's basically they're gonna, what do you say? Like,
so
startle. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to paint a picture for you, Rosie Perez's son. I guess the nickname they call him is the Green Hornet.
Yes, the Green Hornet.
He has a green riding outfit and he rides a motorcycle. And there's a long strip of road somewhere in town that is apparently basically abandoned. That Cameron Diaz, I'm guessing, or the Wireman learn his route because he seems to live out of like an airplane hangar or something.
He seems to travel between Juarez and El Paso.
Yeah, and there's this long stretch of road that the Wireman somehow learns he travels pretty regularly. Now,
we have to jump back real quick.
Yeah.
So when he's talking to Rosie Perez, she says, "I need you to get my son out of jail." He had $15,000 on him, and he has like a $400 fine because he was going over 200 miles an hour on the bike. Yeah. Which wasn't supposed to happen with the deal.
Again, inevitability, foregone conclusion. So what happens is we get a couple of episodes, we get a few edits slipped in there of just a few minute episodes in the Green Hornet's life. Yeah. Just him doing stuff, really.
Smoking weed, he's got a dog, he's going back between Juarez and El Paso.
He tells a weird, creepy joke to a white lady.
That must have been in the extended cut because I didn't see that.
Well, he buys dog food and he tells a really weird, creepy joke to this old white lady for no real reason other than to be creepy.
He's the worst kind of rich kid. He is the rich kid of the head of a cartel.
Yeah, And the reason why the wireman wants him is because he has something of import in his helmet.
Yes, very important to moving the truck.
Yes, it's the electronic tracking device that starts the truck.
Yes.
Anyway, so the wireman learns this kid's route. Would you like to interject?
I was going to say, he learns his route.
Mm-hmm.
He also, if you were going to mention, he measures out exactly how high his bike is.
Yes, he goes to a bike dealership and finds relatively the same model of bike and takes a tape measure in there. We just get this goofy little scene where one of the salespeople there is like, "Can I help you?" And he just leaves. He's like, "Nope, I got what I need."
He's just like, "No," just walks out. Like that's.
I think it would have almost been better if he just shot him on look. Just like, "Do I look like I need your help?"
See, no, I think he does it just right because if you're a criminal, you don't want to be remembered very well, and if you just walk in and you just measure something and walk out, that's weirder than some guy just going measure something. Nope.
Don't gives you the look of the fucking demon.
Just that little. He doesn't even look at him. It's just like that little bit helps him not be remembered.
Yeah, but the one cute little detail in there that does bolster this theme that I'm pushing of inevitability is that the only reason the Green Hornet is able to ride that route at that day and time is because Michael Fassbender got him out of jail at his own mother's command.
Yes, at his mother's.
So that kid wouldn't have been on that road if not for Michael Fassbender being told to get him out of jail.
I wonder if that's going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah,
Trevor.
I wonder. So we get this long procedural scene where the wireman takes a thin razor wire basically out of his truck and ties it off on a telephone pole.
Yeah.
And he uses that measurement that he got from the bike dealership to measure, about the height of a human neck when they're riding a motorcycle. And then Green Hornet comes down the road, blazing at like 200 miles an hour or whatever. And then the wireman triggers some lights on his truck to... And this is a funny little detail. It makes him raise up on his bike.
Because
he needs to see what's out there.
Especially on bikes like that.
It's a Japanese bike.
Yes. You are being more aerodynamic, especially if you want to go super fast. So you're down low. So when you see lights, you're going to...
Yeah, he pops up like a meerkat.
Thinking it's a cop or something.
And his neck hits that wire and...
Off.
Head and helmet both come off. Wireman... very, very savagely just dumps his head out of the helmet like you'd I don't know, take the top off a pumpkin or something, just like thunk.
Again, I think that Michael Shannon was watching this. Like, this guy's really creepy.
Michael Shannon's probably just like pitched forward in his seat, being like, "I know what I have to do. This guy needs to get topped. This guy needs to get told about himself. Honey, get my shoes."
I think that even Anton Chigurh was just like, "Oh, that was brilliant. That was just brilliant.
Marvelous. Marvelous."
He might even crack a smile. Who knows?
Oh my god, that would be great.
He has that Billy from Predator laugh.
I was thinking more Agent Smith of the Matrix Revolutions, but you haven't seen that, have you?
I saw the first one.
By choice.
That's it. Yeah, I saw the first
Senor
one.
Kyle.
And I saw the French guy talking in the second one, I think. It's like wiping your ass with soap.
It's like wiping your ass with soap.
That's the only thing I remember from that second one. Okay, so this is the moment where we're going to start paying off.
Yeah, this is basically the point where the movie starts to pick up. Starts to get a head of steam on it.
So I actually want to... Before we get into the heavy stuff, let's talk about now that I've kind of thought about Javier Bardem's character, about him being intimidated, especially he's insecure and a little bit intimidated.
Yeah.
The scene, the car scene.
Oh, the car scene.
And up until now, I don't think that there was a point of it, but I think that Cameron Diaz's character picks up on his insecurities. I think she's able to pick up. She's very smart. She's the smartest person in the movie. She's the smartest character. I think she's picking up on his insecurity, and this might even be a way for her to just mess with his head even more.
Well, I mean, this is me projecting a lot and maybe exploring themes that aren't actually there, but I mentioned before about Michael Fassbender being almost like caught, like he's trapped.
Yeah.
I used the phrase like schoolyard dare, because think about what it means to be a dude, and think about what masculinity means. So much of that is about preserving something that's very fragile, that doesn't even exist. And think about being Javier Bardem and having this woman that absolutely won't blink at anything, and knows that you will, but you're the one that supposedly has all the resources and the power. So I think it's like a demonstration of like dominance, kind of.
Interesting.
Where it's almost like a dare, where she's just displaying that I have absolute command of myself and my situation. Do you?
She's literally whipping it out and measuring them.
Like, yeah. She's just like, he's going whoop, on the table, and he's just like, oh god, it's like a baby's arm holding an apple. Yeah.
Metaphorically.
But yeah, he even uses the phrase like he's like paralyzed. He's like in awe.
I don't want to describe the scene because it's you just watch the movie.
I don't want to describe. She does things to his car.
Yeah, she does things to his car. But that's interesting.
I feel like it's just her like kind of spreading her wings and just saying like, this is me. Are you able to measure up to this? And he very clearly is not.
Yeah.
But she's still with him. And the entire time they're together, he's terrified of her, partially because he thinks she'll leave, but also because he knows what she's capable of, and that is seemingly anything.
That's anything.
He even mentions, Michael Fassbender asks him about his stock tickers and stuff, and he's like, do you even know what all that means? And he's like,
she does.
Yeah, he's like, but no, she's the one that knows.
Like, she probably knows a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
She does.
But yeah, the car scene comes about when they're prepping their restaurant together, Reiner and Fassbender, Javier Bardem and Michael Fassbender.
Prepping
and what happens is, as Reiner tends to do, he starts, spinning yarns and says a few things too many, and then alludes to something regarding like, I know too much about women. And Michael Fassbender says, what do you mean? And it takes some prying, but eventually Javier Bardem decides, have a seat. He says, have a seat. I'm going to pour us some drinks, and I'm going to tell you a story about my car.
But he almost like had to get it off his chest. He's just like, dude, something else must have happened that day where he's just like, I'm trying to forget about... Because that happened, that wasn't just very recently, because he's like, remember that car I had?
It was like when they were early together.
Yeah.
It was one of those... It's like a Freudian slip, where it's like, he says, he's like, oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Like, I wouldn't want to talk about that. It's like, yeah, you do. It's like, this is almost like a confession or like a therapy session at this point.
I think that that's actually a really good take on that, because I thought that, like, seeing this movie a few times, like, I thought that the scene added nothing, but actually I think that if you look at it from that point of view, that is a very good way to look at that scene.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I agree with that. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Cool. Let's let shit hit the fan now.
Carry us into the shit.
Okay. So just a few. I had a few jokes just because of watching this. When real drug smugglers see people smuggling in movies, are they like, "What the fuck, dude? You're giving away all our secrets."
Who told him that?
Who told him that? Like, I don't know if they ever did what they did in Traffic, but if whoever was
how many people died over this movie?
Like, Jesus, like,
it's like, Paco, you've been talking to the federales.
Again, Javier, not Javier. Benicio del Toro is in Traffic as well. That's a pretty good movie.
That's what I've heard. I haven't actually seen it.
That's up there. That's like 98, 99.
No, I know that's supposed to be a very good movie.
Topher Grace doesn't even have facial hair yet.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
She fine. So, like I was saying, like, I think that the dialogue before, like you said, the payoff is very good about creating very haunting imagery for me. The Bolo Next Tide. Anytime somebody's talking about a snuff film, that's pretty fucking scary. I don't know how good 8mm is anymore, but I remember it being a little, like, pretty creepy. That's what I was kind of picturing when they were talking about this, because the only time they've kind of...
I mean, the structure of the movie is a little weird, because so many of these payoffs start coming in rapid fire. Like, in rapid succession.
Fire, seriously.
Only in the last act of the movie, kind of. Throughout the entire movie, you have, like, a feeling of insecurity. Like, was that really just in there in dialogue just because? And then when it starts to pay off, it all kind of, like, there's not enough breathing room in between all of it, I guess, where it does start... It kind of triggers something, though, where when the bolito shows up, it gets you thinking back to those weird episodes, those weird musings, those weird anecdotes, and it gets you thinking, like, oh shit, that showed up.
Yeah.
Is the snuff film going to show up?
I didn't even think about the snuff film, and yeah, that's the thing. Is actually I forgot about the snuff film watching this.
But I'm sure you remembered it when it came up.
Yes, shit is hitting the fan essentially. After the Green Hornets been decapitated.
Yeah, the truck changes hands a couple times, actually.
A couple of times, yes. We don't. I mean, that's a cool scene. I don't think it's not really that important.
I think it's just in there because they needed some guns.
Yeah,
somebody needed to get shot.
Somebody needed to be shot.
Because if you look at the cover that they advertise the movie with, there's a gun.
There's a gun.
Because I mean, you got to get people to see the movie. I mean,
but you can also see you can actually kind of see like how each side is very much dedicated to their job.
Oh yeah, they're like Terminators.
Yeah.
Like both crews are like Terminators.
Seriously.
Like we got the Wireman who has Joe Chill from Batman Begins.
Okay,
so the man who killed the fucking Wayne family is
I recognize him.
Subservient to the Wireman.
Is he the guy in 31?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you're the expert on the Rob Zombie oeuvre.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
But yeah, so awful. Joe Chill is in the truck with fucking Wireman. And then they get ambushed by what looks like a German or Dutch guy.
I think they're Russian. I think they're two Russian
They're
dudes.
European of some sort. They don't have Hispanic accents.
No, they do not at all.
They pull up as fake sheriff or fake police officers behind the truck. They get in a little gunfight. One of the European fellows takes charge of the truck, so the Wireman's dead. Sorry, folks. Same with Joe Chill.
So, truck was hijacked, and it was rejacked by...
rejacked
by the original cartel. So, now we have Fassbender and Bardem, Brad Pitt, all in trouble because the truck is missing. Now they have the truck back, and they're still fucked.
Yes.
Because they thought it was them that were... Like, we don't know if you are or not, but you're the one that got her son out of prison, or son out of jail. He's dead that day. We're pointing the blame.
Yeah, nothing personal, but somebody got to die.
Somebody's got to die. So we get the one scene where Fassbender he's got his OJ, he's got his French press, he's whipping his eggs, he's feeling good about life.
Yeah, he's making a cozy breakfast.
He's got cozy. She's gone. That's another thing.
Yeah, they're separate for most of the movie.
Most of the movie, they're separate. I don't know if she's on a trip or they just live in different places, which would be weird if they're engaged.
Well,
she said yes, by the way.
The dwelling that we see her in throughout the movie seems to be pretty upscale.
Yeah.
And her clothes suggest that she's doing fine by herself. It's we're never told what she does, but apparently she works.
Yeah.
And apparently she's doing just fine.
Yeah. She's doing fine.
There is one scene with her and Cameron Diaz together, so she must have been in the same town as the whole crew, at some point.
They are talking like they've never really met before, or maybe they've talked maybe one time before. They're at best an acquaintance.
They're at a spa together.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, friend's wife.
Yeah.
Go, you girls have fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna go get drunk on the golf course or something like that.
But
she's like, don't leave me with her.
Don't leave me with her. She's fucking crazy.
She's half cheetah.
She's trying to bang me.
Yeah. She's not. She's very unsubtly trying to.
She's trying to bang me. So Brad Pitt basically calls Fassbender. He's like, "Hey, dude, shit is done. Like we are fucked. There's no." He's like, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, he has that matter-of-fact delivery.
He's like, it's bad. You need me to meet me right now at this place. And
like the Golden Corral or some shit. It's like the mall, basically.
It's probably an expensive hotel, but it's like...
It looked like a mall food court.
It kind of did.
The lady looked like she worked at Denny's or something.
It's the Coronado.
The Coronado.
The Coronado atrium.
Okay.
This is where we find out. Brad Pitt basically tells him, like, listen, you got the kid out of jail. He died. They think it's you. He's like, I don't know if you have anything to do with it or not. Honestly, it doesn't really matter at this point. And Fassbender genuinely doesn't. He doesn't know that he's been set up by a cheetah.
Yeah,
Cameron Diaz.
a cheetah.
A cheetah.
A cheetara, if you will. Yeah, Brad Pitt basically gives him the...
King from Tekken.
Yes, King from Tekken.
King from Tekken has set them up.
There you Brad Pitt basically gives him the, and I'm sorry to drop this,
but
the Heat speech.
Oh yeah,
I know how you feel about Heat, but it's basically the don't take any job if you can't, just drop everything and leave. Basically. Yeah. And Brad Pitt even chuckles at him a little bit.
Oh, he's laughing.
Oh yeah, he's tittering like a schoolgirl.
He's known his whole time. He's known like the entire time he's been doing this job, Brad Pitt, that he's like, there's gonna reach a day where I'm fucked and I have to leave and I need to make sure I have my way out. He has his way out.
Yeah.
And he knows that Fassbender doesn't. He's like, I doubt that you do. You might say you do. You don't. And for Brad Pitt, it's kind of like his character is just like, well, I knew this day was coming, and he might have even like, maybe that's why he was so giggly when he first met him. Like maybe he knew, like just subconsciously, like this is it. Like this is the one.
This is the one that's going to get me killed.
This is the one that's going to get me killed.
Sorry to pump the brakes for a second, but another tracing back to this theme that I seem to be keying in on masculinity. When they first meet, Brad Pitt and Michael Fassbender, Brad Pitt mentions how he does have it in him to, or he does say that if you're going to get into this line of work, you need to be able to just drop off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. And Michael Fassbender challenges him, and he's like, well, why wouldn't you then? And he's like, oh, women.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly
sure
what
enough,
his downfall
that's his downfall. It's very classic, storytelling trope.
I took a mental note of that.
But yeah, apparently, I think every one of our central characters has their downfall come in the form of a woman. Fassbender, no physical harm unto him.
No.
But what is the source of his emotional trauma?
Why is he doing this entire thing? Yes.
And at the very end of the story, what is the thing that breaks him?
Yes.
Javier Bardem. Where do all his woes come from?
Women.
Brad Pitt.
Women.
Yes.
Yes, that is true.
And who is the ultimate villain of the story?
Women.
Whoa, man!
This
podcast just took a really dark turn.
I'm gonna wait till the end to give you my theory on Cameron Diaz's character.
Yeah, we really owe it to her to go into it. Because I have my feelings on her performance, but
let's wait.
Very important character that doesn't have that much screen time. Very important character, though.
But any screen time that she does have is it's like you said, it's very minor, but it's very important each time.
Yes.
You could actually probably just write a paper about her character in this movie. Just like a one page.
The Cheetah. An exploration of Malkina.
This is where we get... we've already been terrified by the bolo tie, but now we get... What we've heard in other movies about the cartel is the snuff film. At least I saw it in Savages. I don't know about Sicario. Arnold movie.
Collateral Damage?
No. The stupid one with all the beefcakes.
Predator?
No. That was...
I mean, come on. Like, stupid one with all the beefcakes?
With all the beefcakes. No, it's fairly recent.
Expendables?
No. God damn it.
You're mentioning the wrong actor.
No, it's a movie where his family are murdered by the cartel and they send him a video of it and he's with a whole team of...
Sabotage.
Sabotage. Yeah. Thank you, Sabotage. That's also...
You can't just say, stupid one with the beefcake.
The one with the beefcakes, yeah.
Yeah, that's a small list.
Yeah, that's a small list.
Jesus. Come on, man.
Oh my god, yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, it's Sabotage.
It's Sabotage.
David Ayer's Sabotage.
So I've heard this a couple times before. Yes. Maybe it's Sicario even. I can't even remember, but I know they definitely kill his family for sure. But the snuff film, I'm like, okay, I've heard of it before, and then he describes it a little bit more in detail, and you're like, well, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But now this is where I wrote this down, and you caught it too. She's like, what will you be drinking? He goes, a hemlock.
Yeah. So after Brad Pitt tells Michael Fassbender, like, you're gonna die, or everyone you know is gonna die, basically. Yeah. Our local Denny's waitress, working at the Coronado, she comes by and she asks for their drink order, and yes, his response is straight out the holster, just like, quick draw, hemlock.
That's pretty, yeah.
And, I was fortunate that I got the reference, but at the same time, that creeping feeling of like, who talks like that? Like kind of thing crept in there. Where it's like, that's really witty, but it's just That's like Joss Whedon witty. It's like this is too witty.
I'm gonna use it now whenever
it's a good one.
I'm having a bad day. It's like, you want something to drink? Yeah, fucking hemlock. No. I thought that was good, but I love what Brad Pitt says. He's like, he'll be having a double Mylox with a side of OxyContin.
Yeah. That was, again, a little too witty, but fucking great.
That one's good. Yeah, that's a little less
pretty
witty.
Fucking awesome.
I was like, oh my god, that's good. I like that little bit of dialogue.
Yeah, that goes in your little black book.
But now we're getting to our characters more or less like having to run or being killed. Brad Pitt and Fassbender go their separate ways. He's like, dude, don't go home. They'll be expecting that. Yeah. What does Fassbender do? Goes home. He takes off his fucking shoes and grabs a scotch, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, he makes an attempt to be smart by throwing his cell phone away, but that's about it.
He talks to the one lady. He's like, I gotta call my kid. So Fassbender's accent. There's a couple of times where I can hear him. He's doing an American accent.
Trying,
he is Irish. He's good. He's got the American accent.
But he's like Irish German, so it's all muddled and weird.
But he has certain. He pronounces some words kind of with a southern accent occasionally.
Yeah.
And it's kind of inconsistent, and it kind of sticks out when you hear it. Like him just normal talking, you don't hear it, but occasionally he'll kind of talk. But that was one problem I had, was just it was inconsistent with his accent.
Well, I mean, for like 2/3 of the movie, he's largely not a character, other than when he's speaking with Penelope Cruz, where they're whispering, where the passion is very strong. It's very strong indeed. The passion. Yes. In fact, their conversations are almost like straight out of a soap opera or something. They're very intensely in love with each other. But in relating to other characters, he's just kind of the straight man. He lets everyone else kind of take the floor.
I don't want to say how everybody gets theirs. I think that.
Okay.
If you decide,
I mean, if you want to watch the movie, that's actually a big selling point.
I would rather. That's kind of where I want to say the fun element of it comes a little bit.
If you're that kind of person, I am.
This is where like when you're watching the movie, you're like your heart's not really racing, and now you're like it's kind of
oh no, there are no rules.
Yeah,
oh no.
Yeah. Unless there are any specific deaths you wanted to talk about.
John Doe has the upper hand.
California, stay away from here.
What's in the box?
Except for this time, Fassbender is Mills.
Yeah. oh God. Oh God!
His is much better than that.
No, Fassbender, his emotional scenes in this movie are phenomenal.
I like recalling it in my head. I thought it was over the top, but rewatching it, it is. I think it's stronger than Tom Hanks is at the end of Captain Phillips. I think he was nominated for that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Largely on the strength of that one scene.
On that one scene, Fassbender, I just remember
his expression of grief is physical.
He's
got the snotty nose. He's got like his abdominals are just like his diaphragm won't come down.
He looks like he's gonna puke.
Yeah, he looks like he's about to retch, and that he is having a seizure, which is what that looks like.
I know I ended up in an accident when I was younger, and I ended up I ended up having to go to the hospital basically, and they didn't tell my mother. They called my mother, and they're like, they just call her 3:00 in the morning. We need permission to operate on your son.
Oh.
Because I'm 15. And she's like, what's wrong? No. We just need permission, basically.
Oh.
And all I needed was some stitches. It wasn't bad, but they gave her nothing else. So she woke up, and I remember she told me, she's like, I thought I was going to puke. She physically felt ill.
Yeah.
And this is, when I was rewatching it, I'm like, but I think he's having a bit more, because he knows what's happened.
Well, it's not just that he knows what happened. It's that he knows he's responsible.
Yeah, he's responsible. He knows how horrific it was, and there was nothing he could do about it.
Well, even deeper though, he did do quite a bit.
He did.
He spent 20 minutes of the movie doing everything in his power besides physically walking over there.
That was the problem that his character had, was that he thought he could do something about it, and that's what everybody was telling him.
From minute one, he's being told, if this goes wrong, It's a force of nature. It's a typhoon.
There's nothing you're going to do.
There's not a thing you can do to stop it.
Even if you survive, you will want to die.
Yeah. But he jumps through all sorts of hoops, in the form of phone calls, essentially, because that's what a white collar person has at their command.
So glad you brought that up. He does take a plane ride. It does look like to Mexico City. He goes. It looks pretty. It's in Mexico.
Yeah, I think he. It's never explicitly stated where he is or what he's doing, but it seems like maybe he's considering like having a physical audience with the people.
He is. So that's when he goes to talk to the guy. He's like, "Hey, what do I owe you?" And he's just like, "I made the call." But
he calls in every favor he can, basically, with all these seedy ass people.
Ruben Blades is
the philosopher king.
He's my favorite part of the whole. His conversation. It's so because you can tell this character has read a lot, and he's very, very, very smart. I'm not sure what his position is, but he seems to be pretty powerful.
Oh yeah,
he has a very, very nice dark house.
With a very, very dimly lit house, but a nice house.
He shuts up dudes with like either a hand. I don't even think he snaps his fingers. I think he just waves his hand.
He just like waves,
and they shut up immediately.
They stop their pool game,
but. I get what you're saying, like, yes, he is a poetry ninja.
Seriously.
It's very eloquent, but I think if you actually listen to what he's saying, I think that's why I really like it. I like what he's saying to him. He's trying to reason with him, and it's very chilling the way he's talking to him.
Because it's coming entirely from the lens is pulled all the way back, so he has no emotional stake in it. It's purely just logical and speaking from wisdom, speaking with knowledge that has been earned with time and trauma.
I think what makes the conversation so good is at the end, if he's like, I have to go now, I have a few more calls, if I have time I might take a nap. I like that. I was just like, that was so chilling, that conversation.
No, it's a very good conversation. It's just, again, the language is my dispute with it. It's like, I don't care how learned you are or whatever. I'm sorry, I can't be that eloquent on the spot.
I think what I'm thinking is he's had this conversation before.
That's what I got out of it too.
He's talked to people through this. I'm guessing that's kind of where he might be the person that Brad Pitt was talking to, or something along those lines. Like, I'm guessing that Ruben Blades has this conversation with several people before.
Well, it's kind of funny that this movie's called The Counselor, and it's basically about him seeking counsel from a colorful cast of characters,
very much,
seemingly for every facet of his life. But he seems to have very little agency in his own life and his own story. But it's clever screenwriting to have him have the conversation with the jeweler, an old mentor figure, and then with whoever Ruben Blades was. Another person with some years on him and a lot of wisdom over him.
Regardless of the poetry or philosophy that him before, him ending the conversation like that.
That was pretty cool.
I thought that was...
Especially because they keep cutting back to Michael Fassbender, who's mostly quiet, just like... He can't even shut his mouth. He's so upset. He's so distraught.
This is before he's even found out what's happened.
Yeah, nothing has actually happened that he knows of. He just knows in his mind that, it's coming, and I need to do something, but there's nothing to be done.
What's even crazier is that they drop that off and just hand it to him, and you don't even know what happens to him. Like, they might let him go. They might still be looking for him.
Well, that was a good use of, filmic restraint. Because we'd seen the bolito, we'd seen the car, we'd seen so many visualizations of these horrible things that had been talked about in the film, and it trains you as the viewer to anticipate it.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it's coming, but they reel it back because I think at some point you have to. Yeah. Where it's like, we've already seen all that other stuff in detail. This you don't need.
Yeah,
like this, the impact. Again, if Michael Fassbender wasn't as good of an actor, it would have felt like a robbery. But just seeing his reaction without seeing the actual visualization of what happened, just seeing his reaction was enough. Yeah.
There's nothing visual past his reaction that would capture what he was actually
all you needed to know was what it meant to him without seeing what happened.
You could watch this movie just for that one scene because it's incredible.
I don't know, that burrito.
We won't tell you who gets the burrito.
The burrito.
Okay, so we're pretty much wrapping up. Did you have any? I wanted to talk about Cameron Diaz's character.
We owe it
can
to
we
her.
do? Can we do that now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give you my theory on what's happened with her character.
Okay.
What is the name of Lucy Liu's character in Kill Bill Volume 2?
Oren Ishii.
So she comes from half American, half Japanese.
I think she's half Chinese, half Japanese.
She brings up American, I think, at one point.
But she's not full Japanese.
So if I remember correctly, both of her parents were killed.
Yes.
Some kind of Yakuza fella comes in.
It's like a coup of some sort.
Some kind. Comes in, kills both of them. She's taken and, I believe, raped, sexually assaulted somehow. And in turn, her character becomes... she ends up killing older, like, pedophiles, basically.
Yeah. She takes vengeance on the person who killed her family.
I feel like that would make a lot of sense for Cameron Diaz's character, because when she talks to Javier Bardem at the very beginning, she says that... She's like, do I remind you of someone? She's like, yes. And like, oh, who? She's like, someone who's dead. And...
Someone who's been taken care of.
You can tell, like, before you know that she's the villain,
yeah,
quote unquote. Because I wouldn't even. It's hard to call her a villain because everybody in this movie, aside from what's her face, Penelope Cruz, are doing bad shit.
Yeah, no, she's the only innocent in the entire story.
Yes. Collateral damage, basically.
Yeah, she's the collateral damage.
She's the collateral damage. We don't. You can kind of get the gist that she's not a good person. She's not a bad person, but you can tell she's not very nice. And then when it comes full circle, we find out that she's orchestrated this entire thing.
Yeah, that's our final payoff at the end of the story.
I think this is a little bit of vengeance. I think that maybe her parents or maybe someone that she was married to or a boyfriend or something like that got caught up in something like this and was killed.
She's asked about her parents, and she says they were kicked out of a helicopter over the Atlantic when she was a kid.
Okay, so the version I watched last night did not have that, and I remember I wanted to ask you about that because I remember I didn't see it when I watched the movie. Something like that, something about her parents dying. So I'm not crazy. That
was not verbatim, but that was the line. She said her parents were kicked out of a helicopter when she was a kid.
I saw that in the extended version of one of the times I watched this. Okay, so that makes sense.
I mean, you asked if this screenplay was originally a novel. Mm-hmm. I don't know that, but I do remember hearing that a novelization was made of like the complete screenplay.
Oh, okay.
So chunks of the screenplay I know were removed for the film because that's typical. I don't know any details that were removed, but I know for a fact the movie I saw, she said that.
Gotcha.
No details as to why, though.
Do you think that, like, her scene with Penelope Cruz?
Yeah.
Do you think that her parents were actually the innocents, and when they were like, my parents were flung out of a helicopter or whatever? Like, do you think that her parents were actually the innocents, and this is her orchestrating this whole thing to get back at the type of people that did that?
I don't know.
Or, again, she's pretty trashy.
She is.
I would say. She's got I'm not saying that tattoos and gold teeth are trashy, but the lifestyle that she's living, you can tell that she has a personality, and she has a certain way of like dressing and a certain way of acting that's coming off as kind of, you know what I mean, kind of rough around the edges.
Yeah, no, I think there's mention of her being like a prostitute or a streetwalker at some point in her life. Mm-hmm. Who knows when? Yeah, but I don't know. Her character felt very hazy to me, and that's part of my problem.
I think that was on purpose.
I get it, but my problem actually is mostly not with how the character was written, but how the character was performed.
Okay. I
don't actually like her performance because it feels like it belongs in a different movie. Because she's playing like Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. Like she's like, I'm the villain with my arms swept out. She's doing John Travolta in Battlefield Earth. Like, why you were learning how to spell your name?
Oh my God.
I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
Jesus.
Your friendly bartender.
I honestly thought that movie would be more fun drinking, but there's no amount of alcohol that makes that movie fun.
But yeah, her performance is a little not campy, but just she puts like venom on every line she has. Where she's not a veiled threat. Mm-hmm. She's very clearly like a predator in the room, mm-hmm. and it's like, how do you function in your daily life? You're menacing this poor God-fearing woman sitting on the bed next to you.
See, I was thinking of that scene, and I think that she has kind of an upper hand because she's, like I said, rough around the edges. She's definitely been in a different world than these people, and she even says, "What a world!" And she's like, "Oh, the one that you live in."
Well, there's repetition of that with Ruben Blades also.
You can kind of make those like passive aggressive like jabs.
Well,
like
it's like being the one streetwise person in the room, where it's like, oh, you know who you can take, whereas everyone else is just
being it's like when everybody's just being polite and quiet. Like, I'm not going to say anything. Like, yeah,
or where it's like we're above that, whereas she is not, but she can exist in your world.
She can be rude, like she's kind of rude to her.
Well, it's just a lack of boundaries, where it's like she's comfortable in her own skin.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of these people, like Michael Fassbender, I don't think it's a coincidence that he's in like the most perfectly fitted suits imaginable throughout the entire movie. It's like it's almost like shackles in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's like everybody plays their role, whereas she's just kind of like dipping and dodging into whatever realm she wants to. But yeah, I just thought that she was a little too over the top. Like, she's kind of winking at the audience a little bit, especially that the finale of the movie. Just her dialogue with her bankers. Just it feels like the end of a superhero movie or something. Where I feel like there's going to be a stinger in the credits or something.
I will say that might even just be a little bit of like the victory in it. Like, she made it to the other side. Like, she successfully did what she wanted to do, and by acting that way, she was successful. So I could see how she might be playing it up a little bit more, like Cruella de Vil, like, oh, I did it, now I'm famished or whatever. She's earned that. Like, if that's how she kind of saw herself as a villain, if she was trying to present herself as a villain, she succeeded. Yeah. And now she can kind of be over the top.
I guess it kind of felt like I don't really know what is motivating this character. Mm-hmm. Like, because she's clearly been with Javier Bardem for some time. Yeah. Surely other opportunities would have presented themselves. Like,
no, she found the weak one.
She's not seeking comfort. She's seeking apparently diamonds.
So she was the reason why she
already has comfort. She's had that for however long.
She's retiring. This whole thing is just
so
like,
this isn't about money at all.
No, this is exactly about money. This is retiring. Like, this is the one big score in Heat. All right, this is the big one. This is the one. This is that one that they're like, this is the big score, and then everybody, we're done now. Like, that's it. That's what this was. And she said that the easiest way to move $20 million is in diamonds. You can have $20 million sitting in the palm of your hand. That's why she was saying diamonds. That's why she was such an expert about diamonds when she was talking to her.
The gal in London, isn't that the lady from like Game of Thrones?
Yeah, she's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I recognize her face. I don't know her name, but there was a bit of an exchange between the two of them that felt like maybe it was supposed to be some sort of like passing of the torch, or at least an attempt at it. But but the other girl wasn't her.
No,
it's like this is like you touching my world, but then walking away from it.
Yeah.
So this girl probably, like, you could theorize, I guess, that Cameron Diaz maybe started out kind of similar to this person, like willing to do the things that other people aren't. But then Cameron Diaz kept going, and this girl shied away from it.
I think that Cameron Diaz suffered. She went through a traumatic experience as a young lady, and it shaped her into a sociopath.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, she's a sociopath for sure. But is she like Jeff Bridges in Fear or whatever, or Fearless?
I was gonna say Fear.
No, not Jeff Bridges versus Marky Mark. I would watch that.
Let me in the fucking house.
Hey man, can you like let me in the house, man?
Hey man, he threw the dog's head through the doggy door, man.
Like, let's talk about this, man. It's not a big deal.
I don't know.
But yeah, Fearless. It's about a man that's in a plane crash who no longer experiences fear.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
So it's about a severe trauma that results in a broken person, basically.
Yeah, I think that this was just her, like, getting back at the people that were probably the type of people that were responsible for her parents' death, and she's taking them for everything they have.
Okay, that's as good a theory as any, because I couldn't find any evidence to suggest anything, to the contrary, so I can't fight you on
it. So, like I said at the very, very top, I mean, that's pretty much it. Was there anything else that you had?
I think we're about wrapped up.
Yeah. So, like I said, combined rating of 45%. What would you say? Like, what would you say overall? Would you give it a higher score? Did you like it?
I'm a nice guy. I mean, that's why we're able to do this, is because I can find value in pretty much anything. I wouldn't rate it, like, if we're going percentages, shit, like, I don't know.
6.8 out of 10? 7?
Yeah, like 65% out of 100. Okay. I mean, but this isn't like a grade scale. This is just like, imagine your super combo meter is filling. So it's like, shit, didn't get it full.
Didn't get it quite
full. It's
full.
like, enough for an EX move, but not enough for the full, not enough for the full Shinku Hadouken.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a bad movie. It has value to it, but I wouldn't call it very good either. The pedigree behind it would have suggested it being better. On the technical side, I can't knock it for anything.
Yeah,
it's a well edited, pretty decently structured, well written film. It just has a weird feel to it. It's very odd for me to watch a movie that's so bottom heavy, I guess.
Yeah. Watch The Gate.
I have, and yeah, I mean, I feel like that movie's basically its last half hour.
That thing's a fucking sledgehammer.
But that one has the advantage of special effects and, the period setting, like the 80s, man.
Oh my gosh, that is like an 80s time.
Just the clothes and
that's
stuff.
The time capsule.
Yeah, it's great. But this one is just kind of like, I think like it would be kind of neat to see like a cut that's just the truck scenes. Because we didn't mention John Leguizamo is in this movie, and there's a funny gag in there about an oil drum.
That's gross.
It's not funny, but it did make me smile. I
thought
it was a neat little detail.
That's the moment where I was like, how is this not a Coen Brothers movie? And then... honestly...
Probably almost was.
Nearly was. It could have nearly been a Coen Brothers movie. But I don't know if they could have brought... Because there's like a dark humor to their movies. I don't really know.
I mean, they even got Javier Bardem, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this one came across their desk and they just moved on to the next one instead.
Thank God.
They said, "Hey, Ridley Scott, here's some trash for you." He's like, "I'll direct that."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Loser."
Seriously. If they would have taken away Anton Chigurh, that would have been a crime, because that was an awesome villain. All right, I think that about wraps it up. So next time we will be talking about, I'm catching up on
Deep Rising from 1998.
1998. I'm really excited to talk about that one.
Okay, until next time when we catch up on cinema.